Hi guys, Brexiteers like Dan Watton and Ann Widdecombe aren't very happy about two things. One, that support for leaving the EU is at its lowest point in recent years, with growing support for the UK to rejoin. And two, that Tony Blair is pointing out the flaws in Brexit. What's interesting in this exchange is that the former Brexit Party MEP is perhaps seeing the writing on the wall and is now talking about how expensive it would be to rejoin and the problems connected with it. I think this is the narrative we're going to start to see from Brexiteers. Have a listen.
I knew you'd be mad about this one. Tony Blair nailing his Ramona colours firmly to the mast and making a treacherous claim that we're going to rejoin the EU. This is as a new poll showed public support for going back in at a 5-year high.
Is Dan Watton really that stupid? So he says that this is treacherous, and then he says how support for rejoining the European Union is at a 5-year high. So how is it treacherous to say, yes, a majority of people support rejoining the European Union, so we're probably going to do that? That's what Tony Blair said. And this is somehow treacherous. And Dan Watton himself is saying, well, there's a majority in support of rejoining the European Union. Is he trolling people? Anyway, let's continue.
Blair's described Brexit as a constant sadness to me, and he thinks future generations are going to put it right, Anne. Doesn't he just need to move on and respect the biggest democratic vote in British history?
I can never really get my head around this argument from Brexiteers. So it was the biggest democratic vote in British history to leave the European Union. Why? Because a majority of people wanted to leave. So if a majority of people want to rejoin, then surely it would be another democratic demonstration to have a referendum to rejoin the European Union. They said this was a demonstration of democracy. Then wouldn't it be more democracy to allow another vote? If the majority support rejoining, then surely Brexiteers don't have a problem with having another referendum. Because their whole argument was we needed some more democracy. I really can't get my head around this.
Of course he does. I mean, I too find a daily sadness in Brexit, but it's not because Brexit happened. It's because nobody's done anything with Brexit. The government...
And here we get the government being blamed. So, once again, and I said this before, Rishi Sunak is in charge. Rishi Sunak is a Brexiteer. Reform UK, Brexit Party, whoever, they can complain all they want. But if the guy in charge is a Brexiteer and he's not delivering the type of Brexit you wanted, then you may as well give up. Because the next government in power will be a pro-European Labour Party. And then after that, maybe you'll get another Brexit-style party. But you're never going to get the Brexiteer you wanted. That'd be Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage is not going to be Prime Minister. I highly doubt it. I don't want to say it's impossible because, you know, we used to think it'd be impossible for Boris Johnson to become Prime Minister. So let's not, test fate here. But it's highly unlikely you're going to get the Brexit that you wanted. So you may as well give up. And maybe Ann Widdecombe has given up because... Listen to what she has to say after this.
It isn't taking advantage of Brexit. It hasn't had a bonfire of EU regulations, which we were promised. It is doing trade deals, that much it is doing. But on virtually every other front, I mean, more money to France to stop the boats. France never does anything with the money that we give them. And so I'm sad about the way that Brexit has been treated. And I think the answer, therefore, lies in making the most of Brexit and showing off its value, rather than trying to say, oh, it was a mistake, which I don't believe it was. But Tony Blair needs to really do a bit of thinking. So we're going to apply from scratch, are we? So we have to join the Eurozone. Is that something we really want to do? Look at the Eurozone at the moment and the state it's in. We would have to pay an enormous joining fee. We've already paid a big divorce fee. Do we want to pay another, joining fee? Do we want to go back to being a net contributor? Do we want to go back to being told by Brussels what we have to do every 2 minutes of the day?
You're literally...
Blair thinks we should.
No, and you're describing a nightmare. You're describing a nightmare scenario. And I think it actually is a really good thing to say. It's like when people say, oh, let's just rejoin, actually the consequences... would be absolutely vast.
In a sense, they're correct. there are costs related to rejoining the European Union. But balance those out with the cost of Brexit. £100 billion a year. Drop in GDP. Barriers to trade. Ending of freedom of movement. So rejoining the European Union would be a cost, yes. But it would be much better than Brexit. Now, at the beginning of this video I said, I think this is the new narrative Brexiteers are going to take. And it's going to be, well, it's just too expensive to rejoin. So they understand that support for Brexit is declining and support for rejoining the European Union is increasing. But there's no point arguing, well, we didn't get the Brexit that we wanted. So instead, they're trying to throw as many obstacles in the way of rejoining as possible. Now, some of these, and this is going to be very difficult. Let's be honest here. It's going to be very difficult for rejoin politicians who want the UK to rejoin the European Union, to sell this. I've said it before. For example, the euro is going to be a difficult sell for the British public. Dropping the pound and adopting the euro. Now, the UK may never have to do that. We've seen countries around Europe who've said, yeah, we're going to adopt the euro, and then they didn't. But you have to actually sell that to the public. You can't be dishonest and say, no, we're not going to adopt the euro. This is one of the requirements, or it's probably one of the requirements, unless something changes, because we're talking about a few years down the road. So something could change, but it's probable that the UK would have to adopt the euro. But it may never actually have to do that. But politically, you'd have to sell that to the public. And that's going to be difficult. It's going to be easy for Brexiteers to say, oh, it's just too difficult. It's just too expensive. It's not worth it. Let's make Brexit work. And it's going to be difficult for rejoin politicians to sell this. But they have to. They have to point out the problems of Brexit. And it's disappointing that, particularly the Labour Party is not laying the groundwork already politically, talking about the disaster Brexit is, explaining to the public, look, these are the problems, here are the solutions. Because if they don't, then it's going to make the work of Brexiteers who just have to sit on the sidelines and complain and throw missiles, it makes their job much easier. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.